Hey vinyl community and all my music loving friends, it's MGK Boston. That's Mike back with another video. This video is actually contest entry, just a quick, very quick, per the instructions of George Allen. George is running a contest right now to get to 400 subscribers with his channel. His channel is called George Allen LPs and CDs. If you want to look it up, he's been around the vinyl community for several years, and I thought I'd throw into his contest. It's really simple, this one. It's got to be around 8 minutes, 9 minutes total. And it's got to just be highlight 5 albums featuring singer-songwriters or kind of pop rock or country. It was a little vague, so I'm going to kind of focus on strictly on the singer-songwriter element, and I'm going to dive right in because the time is of the essence. We'll start with the former Mrs. Kris Kristofferson, if you will, the great Rita Coolidge. This is her solo debut from 1971. Of course, she was on the A&M label. Several guests on this one. Stephen Stills is on this album. Who else? Booker T. Jones, Bobby Womack on guitar. Yeah, just a lot of different session guys playing on this. A lot of great personnel for her kickoff. Ry Cooder as well on bottleneck guitar on a couple of these tracks. Second Story Windows, great. Ain't That Peculiar, and of course she does a cover of Born Under a Bad Sign. So again, it's Rita Coolidge, her self-titled solo debut, 1971. Of course, she'd sung back up with several other people in the late 60s out in California, and that's just her solo debut. Of course, she later, when she married Kris Kristofferson, they did 3 or 4 albums together. I have those, but again, time here is of the essence, and I'm trying to mow through these 5 as quick as I can. Number 2. This guy I'd call a singer-songwriter slash cowboy country and western. Really excellent. You can't go wrong with this. Some critics called this the Fillmore East for rednecks, and it's just that. It's a good time. It recorded live in Luckenbach, Texas. I believe it's pulled from one set straight through. Of course, it's right there, live recording. Right down to the date itself, August 18th, Luckenbach, Texas. I believe the release date on this one, 1973. Yeah, and it's called Viva Terlingua, if I'm saying that right. That's the title. And just real quick, it's got a really cool gatefold sleeve. You can see all the personnel from the band. It looks like this little general store / saloon in Luckenbach. And there's a bunch of shots of the band hanging out, getting ready for the show, whatever they're doing. It's Jerry Jeff Walker. I believe Jerry Jeff Walker's still alive, but very active in the late 60s, well into the 70s. This is really worth seeking out. Again, Viva Terlingua. I always have a hard time saying that. I've got another double live at Jerry Jeff, recorded I think 76 and 77. It's really good too, but this one is really brass tacks, bare bones, really at his peak in my opinion. Jerry Jeff Walker, Viva Terlingua. Of course, I should point out on this, there is a brilliant cover of Desperados. It's actually Desperados Waiting for a Train, but they just call it Desperados here. And that's, of course, a Guy Clark composition also, man from Texas, the late, great Guy Clark. Viva Terlingua, Jerry Jeff Walker. Shifting gears to more of a pop singer-songwriter, the great Eric Carmen. Mostly well known for his vocals and work forming the Raspberries in the early 70s. Heavily influenced by the pop side of the Beatles. He's a great songwriter, great singer. That's why he's a singer-songwriter. 2 major hits on this solo debut, simply titled Carmen, Eric Carmen rather. Release date on this one is 75. He was on Arista. So there was 2 top 10 hits on this one. Of course, kind of a slow ballad. Never Gonna Fall in Love Again. It's not a ballad. It's kind of poppy, in between a ballad. The pace on that one. And of course, All By Myself. That is a straight up ballad. And the beginning of side 1, there's a track called Sunrise. That's really excellent too. Worth seeking out. Of course, a few years later, well, actually about 10 years later, 1987, Eric Carmen was extremely well known for Hungry Eyes. That was the big single from the film Dirty Dancing, yeah. So anyway, yeah, that's Eric Carmen. Worth seeking that out. If you like that AM top 40 stuff from the 70s, and I was just a child, and I do remember these songs, All By Myself. I can remember hearing that on the radio when I was 9 or 10 years old, and it's It's quite listenable. It's what you call sugar for the ears, and that's Eric Carmen. Self-titled debut, 1976. All right. One of my favorites, from one of my favorite bands, collectives rather, if you will, Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young. Of course, it's the great Graham Nash. This is his solo debut, 1971. It's called Songs for Beginners, and there's Graham right there. Unlike his contemporaries, this is a very introspective record compared to Stephen Still's solo stuff and David Crosby at the time. This is really genuinely more what I would call folk rock. Kicks off with a track called Military Madness, and I should point out a couple of the sitting in on this one was, of course, Dave Mason from Traffic plays on this one, and Jerry Garcia plays on a couple of tracks on this as well on pedal steel. Yeah, some of the other highlights: Better Days, Man in the Mirror, and best song on this, in my opinion, it's called I Used to Be a King. You can look that up on YouTube. Again, solo debut, Graham Nash, and it's Songs for Beginners. And it was as requested by George Allen for the contest. It was, you could show 3 to 5. I'm showing 5, and it looks like I'm going to be under that 8 minutes. So give me kudos for that, George. Here's a double. I don't usually show greatest hits or best ofs, but in this case, Mimi and Richard Farina. This is basically a culling of their first 2 albums, Celebrations for a Gray Day and Crystal Wind, and it all folds into this nice one package, and there they are. Only married for a short time. They were actually contemporaries of Bob Dylan. I believe that Richard Farina and Mimi, they knew Bob Dylan, of course, in the early to mid-60s. I don't know if they were from New York City or California. I guess I could have looked that up, but I'm kind of throwing this video together in a hurry. This is really good. It's a little dated because there's a dulcimer, that instrument on here, and harpsichord. You can see here on the instruments. It's a little dated, but again, if you're into traditional folk music, there's some songs on here worth looking up. Of course, like I mentioned, Reflections on a Crystal Wind. I think that was their debut album. And then, of course, it bookends with Celebration for a Gray Day, which was their second studio release. Sadly, I think they did one more, but on his birthday in 1966, Richard Farina was actually leaving his own birthday party and was killed on a tragic motorcycle accident. So they were done after 66. Mimi went on to do collaborations with other people, and yeah, I believe she is actually Joan Baez's sister. I could have that wrong, but I think I'm right in that. Anyway, that would close out this contest entry for George Allen, LPs and CDs. Please check out his channel. He's been doing videos, as I said, for a number of years, and this is my official entry in his push to 400 subscribers contest. So talking really fast here, but I'm in it. It looks like 8 minutes, 9 seconds. So I did hit the time. I do tend to drone on and on. So that was a contest in itself for me. Thanks, everybody. Have a great weekend.